This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, work continues up in Green Bay as they get ready for preseason game number 1 on Saturday against the Jets. They were on the field for practice this morning. Packers have had to shift some things around on defense with the loss of cornerback Nate Hobbs, who's going to miss a few weeks after undergoing knee surgery. It's forced others, including the likes of Javon Bullard, Micah Robinson, and others, to step in. It's exactly what Coach Matt LaFleur wants to see.
The guy not being able to go, and then everybody kind of gets bumped up a spot and they get more reps. So what we're really looking forward to is watching these guys compete once we get to these preseason games. Obviously, you're evaluating it every day, but I'm excited to see when we're out there and we got a stadium full of people, how these guys respond.
At practice this morning, left tackle Rasheed Walker returned on a limited basis after missing a couple of practices. The team will be back out there tomorrow morning. Again, face the Jets on Saturday in the preseason opener for both teams up at Lambeau Field. Turning to the Badgers, they were on the field in Platteville for a couple of hours this morning as fall camp continues for them. They've got 3 more practices down there, including an open practice for fans on Saturday night. Their season opener against Miami of Ohio is 3 weeks from tomorrow.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
All business owners want the same thing, to make their business succeed. At Rural Mutual, they help that happen. As the 3rd largest writer of commercial business in Wisconsin, they take the time to learn your business so they can properly protect you. Call your local agent today or visit ruralmutual.com.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers are going for a sweep of the Braves tonight. It would be their 2nd straight series sweep and would give them 6 wins in a row. They will get tomorrow off before facing the Mets back in Milwaukee on Friday. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
I just think that we got to continue to be consistent in regards to guys owning their responsibilities in the detail, we're still getting into this and we got a lot more practice left in front of us, but there's got to be a level of urgency in terms of you make a mistake, that mistake cannot happen again. And it's whether it's you or within your position room, I think it's imperative that these guys watch what's going on in front of them. So I think right now where we are as a whole team, I would say it's kind of inconsistent.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That's Matt LaFleur from earlier today, his press conference from this morning before Packers practice. I paused for a second because Tom Silverstein just tweeted a link, surgery expected for Packers linemen. I said, no, wait, did I miss something? It's Travis Glover. And with all due to Travis Glover, and I don't mean to minimize that injury, that sucks for him, sucks for the Packers. I didn't know if it was like breaking news about Zach Tom or, one of their projected starters. Okay. A little bit of a panic attack there. That soundbite from Matt LaFleur earlier today. That's where I want to begin, because that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, which is a me problem, to be clear. It's not like Matt LaFleur said anything ridiculous there or said anything out of bounds or said anything that's not true. It's just the way that comment made me feel and what that comment made me think of. That's where I want to begin tonight. We'll get to the Brewers at some point. They won again. They're really good for all of the reasons that we talked about yesterday and all the reasons we talked about Monday. So we can afford to talk a little Packers football today. A bit of a loaded show. All right, you're going to hear 2 interviews in the second hour from 2 of my favorite people, 2 of my favorite guests. I know they say that about everybody, but I don't invite people on the show who I don't like and whose content I don't like. So you're going to hear an interview with Peter Bukowski, Locked on Packers. We're going to do that at 5 o'clock. And then at 5:30, towards the end of the show, I had, when filling in for Bill Michaels earlier today, I had Ryan Glassbeagle on, whose front office sports reports a lot on sports and sports media. And I don't know if you noticed earlier this week, but there was quite the deal between ESPN and the NFL, where the NFL is going to own like 10% of ESPN. That's where Red Zone is going. That's where so we're going to talk about that and also some of the mechanics of this upcoming year's college football broadcast schedule and some things that are going on behind the scenes between most notably Fox and ESPN, the 2 bigger carriers of course, the SEC on ESPN and Fox with the Big Ten. So you'll hear that in hour number 2. Dom Cotroneo is going to be here live. WTMJ does the pre and the post for the Brewers. He is, I think, I think straight up the best person to discuss Brewers on the radio. I don't think there's anyone who does it better. Maybe you can argue about podcasts and writers. There's lots of good people, but if you want smart, accurate, informed Brewers commentary on the radio, I don't think there's anybody better than Dom. And he does some stuff on FanDuel as well, some stats, and you'll see him and hear him on the broadcast from time to time. He's really good. So he's going to be here in about 45 minutes or so, last segment of this hour. So we'll get the Brewers coverage in as well. My name is Grant Bills. The show is live streaming YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. And I'll take your calls at 608-321-1670. Probably more calls in the first hour. That's where we're going to have a little bit more space. The second hour might be a little bit guest heavy, but that's fine. The Cubs won this afternoon. It was a rather fast and boring game. So the Cubs salvaged the series against the Reds. I believe that means the Brewers' lead in the division is now down to 3.5. And it could go back to 4 or down to 3, depending on what the Brewers do against the Braves here in just a couple of hours. Back to this Matt LaFleur cut, because that's where I want to begin. I'm going to play it in its entirety. It's about 39 seconds. And while you're listening, maybe try to draw a conclusion of your own, because I have a conclusion from this soundbite. I don't like it. Whilst you listen to it here, maybe you can try to figure out why.
I just think that we got to continue to be consistent in regards to guys owning their responsibilities in the detail, we're still getting into this, and we got a lot more practice left in front of us, but there's got to be a level of urgency in terms of you make a mistake, that mistake cannot happen again. And it's whether it's you or within your position room. I think it's imperative that these guys watch what's going on in front of them. So I think right now where we are as a whole team, I would say it's kind of inconsistent.
So that's all very reasonable. You hear that a lot from coaches or players. We're fine with making mistakes in practice, but we don't want to make those mistakes twice. Matt LaFleur also in there saying we need to up our intensity. We need to up our focus. And then at the very end saying, yeah, right now we're kind of inconsistent and we need to iron that out. In a vacuum, it's a great 40 seconds. Very accurate. No problem with it coming from the head coach of the football team that I cheer for, that I talk about on the radio, and that I own. Technically, I'm a shareholder. The reason I don't like that soundbite is because I've heard it before a lot. Heard that like every week last season. How many times? Well, I can tell you how many times. Once to the Bears, twice to the Lions, twice to the Vikings, twice to the Eagles. It's all of the Packers' losses last year. All of those losses, to varying degrees, were riddled with mental mistakes, emotional mistakes, physical mistakes, holding penalties at inopportune times, dropped passes at seemingly always the most inopportune times, 3rd, 4th down, red zone, that sort of thing. All of these issues. And when Matt LaFleur would address those issues or talk about those issues in press conferences the week following a loss, he would say that stuff, right? We need to be more focused in practice. We need to iron out inconsistencies. We can't be making the same mistakes twice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The reason I don't like hearing that from the head coach today as we go into the 2025-26 season is because we've been hearing it for the last year plus. And the fact that we're hearing it again has me looking a little sideways and has me wondering about Matt LaFleur. I think Matt LaFleur is a great coach. I don't think he's on the hot seat, although in the NFL, it's funny. I think every coach is always close to being on the hot seat. There's no coach in the NFL where it's like, well, he could have 4 straight losing seasons and he's still not going anywhere. Like, no, that doesn't exist. The NFL doesn't work like that. So there's a fine line between being on the hot seat and being very secure in your job. That's life in the NFL. So is Matt LaFleur on the hot seat? I don't know. Every coach is always like a couple of bad losses or one bad year away from being on the hot seat. It's true of everybody. But I really like Matt LaFleur. I've heard lots of Packers fans this offseason express concerns, express frustration, kind of talk about like, this is the question I hear from Packers fans, and it's voiced in lots of different ways. Why should I think that Matt LaFleur is prepared to take the Packers farther this year than in years past? If they couldn't beat Tampa at Lambeau in 2021, if they couldn't, get into the playoffs in 2022, they couldn't beat San Francisco and they had a lead in the 4th quarter in 2024. And then last year, the Eagles, but last year was a perfect example because they lost to the Vikings twice. They lost to the Lions twice. They lost to the Eagles twice. Last year was such a cut and dry example of a team and a coaching staff that wasn't prepared to beat teams on their level or above their level, right? So Packers fans this offseason are asking and wondering, why will this year be different? Show me something that has me feeling better about the Packers' chances to make a deep run with Matt LaFleur this year compared to the last couple of years. And a comment like this just gives more Packers fans, just gives more ammo to those people to say, see, like, why should I think that this year is going to be different? Why should I think that this year will be any better? Because I've heard that's the sound of a broken record right there. I'm going to play it one more time. Listen to this. We've heard all of this before.
I just think that we got to continue to be consistent in regards to guys owning their responsibilities in the detail, we're still getting into this, and we got a lot more practice left in front of us, but there's got to be a level of urgency in terms of you make a mistake, that mistake cannot happen again. And it's whether it's you or within your position room. I think it's imperative that these guys watch what's going on in front of them. So I think right now where we are as a whole team, I would say it's kind of inconsistent.
So of course it's early. Then again, I'm old enough to remember when Mike Clemens told us last week that Matt LaFleur had gone back and watched film of last year's training camp because it started slow. And he's like, I need to isolate why we started slow last year and fix that. So Matt LaFleur is aware. He understands that last year they maybe got off to a slow start. I would argue that the Monday through Friday was never at any point last year good enough, and you could see that reflected in games. And it became clear in the final month. It's like, okay, this is the team. They're an unfocused, undisciplined, kind of sloppy team. And that was punctuated, I think, strongest, let's say. It was punctuated the loudest and clearest when Matt LaFleur talked about how he takes emotional penalties like the ones that Keyshawn Nixon kept committing. He takes those personally. And if I keep seeing those, then you can come watch the game next to me. Remember that? And then those mistakes kept happening. And it seemed like there were no players next to Matt LaFleur on the sideline watching the games. So again, to summarize, I think Matt LaFleur is a very good coach. I would take him over most coaches in the NFL, save for a couple like Andy Reid or Sean McVay or whoever. You could argue Dan Campbell, you could argue Kevin O'Connell, but my point is there's only a small handful of coaches that I would say for sure I would take them over Matt LaFleur. And that's a great place to be. But I know that many Packers fans and fellow owners are skeptical. It's like, okay, Matt LaFleur is really good. Do I have reason to believe that he can be great and they can have a season that goes farther and that they can have a season where they perform better than they have in the past? And I don't really have much to say to those Packers fans. That's a group that's growing. Part of that is natural because the longer a coach is there, you just find more things to complain about. That's how it works. But when I hear a comment like that, it's like, oh, so it's the same as last year. The same issues as last year. The same things are going on at practice this year that were going on last year. And that doesn't make me feel great. That's nothing against what Matt LaFleur said at the podium today. I don't think it's unfair or ridiculous. Like that commentary is fine and it's accurate. The problem is I've heard it before, and that doesn't make me feel great. And I think I find myself in probably the group of Packers fans that believes in Matt LaFleur the most. So if I'm noticing that and thinking about that, I can only imagine how lots of you are thinking because I take your calls. I hear from you. I know how you guys feel about this stuff. We got time for a couple calls here. 608-321-1670 before our first break. Let's go to the phones. Why not? Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. It's Clemhead Mike again.
Clemhead, good evening now after I talked to you earlier today.
Yeah, I hope I'm not being a pest calling you twice.
No,
but,
not at all.
I got a cute story. Last week, my grandkids stayed over for 2 nights, and my granddaughter was watching the show with me.
Oh, great.
On YouTube. And I stepped out and I called you, and she says, Grandpa, is that you on the TV?
Wow.
So I'm starting her young. She's going to be a Grant Bills fan for life.
Good. A full circle moment for your family. That's funny.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
But, yeah, I got to agree with you. I don't know if I should say this out loud. I'm a Matt LaFleur fan. I make a lot of fun of him about how boring he is and how people fall asleep listening to his press conferences. But I think he's a pretty smart guy. If he could just, I think he's really trying hard to grow a pair of Dan Campbell's, you-know-whats. And so he's been a little tougher this season, this training camp, because he doesn't have a contract, a guaranteed contract. So I think he might be fighting for his life a little bit, and he's trying to show the management how tough he can be. And maybe it's good. It's a good thing the Packers are trying to be more physical this year. So, yeah, I think he's trying to fit in. I don't think that's the real Matt LaFleur, but I like it.
I mean, I think he's more of
a.
I think he's more of a bulldog than fans give him credit for. I don't think he's Dan Campbell. Like, he's not one of those guys, but I don't think he's this shrinking violet that many of us believe him to be. I think this training camp, he just seems crotchety. You know what I mean? He just seems crabby, and he seemed crabby from day one.
Yeah, I'll bet you he's a workaholic. My old man was a workaholic. Every time he mentioned work, he'd get drunk. So, you know.
Yeah. Well, Matt LaFleur, I mean, I think it was Clemens asked him, or somebody on the beat asked him, like, hey, did you stick around after family night to watch the fireworks? And he's like, nah, I went home to get to bed so I could beat the traffic. And then I could be in here at 5 o'clock the next day. It's like, all right, man, I get it. But like, could you loosen a little bit? Just loosen your rectum and the stick that's up there just a little bit. That's it. Good
call, Grant. He needs a little your wisdom on the sideline to make you an assistant coach in charge of clock management.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to help a ton, Clemhead. I appreciate it. But there are a couple things each game where I'd be like, oh, maybe not. Most of us can do that. It's very easy to armchair quarterback. You know, that timeout against the Bears game, I see it in my sleep. I think Matt LaFleur's great. I think there are some blemishes, and that's true of most coaches. Once upon a time, Andy Reid was an idiot, couldn't manage the clock. Turns out when Patrick Mahomes is a quarterback, it's not so much of an issue. You know what I mean? Bill Belichick couldn't win anything before Brady or after Brady. When he had Tom Brady, he was pretty good. Like, he was pretty good at the whole coaching thing. So I think Matt LaFleur is very good. The press conference earlier today, and some of his commentary in that press conference was like, I recognize some of those things that you're saying. I remember hearing those things last year. I'd like, and I've said this 100 different ways. I'd prefer if this season wasn't a rehash of last season. Good, not great, not capable of performing your best when your best is required. Silly mental mistakes and physical mistakes, emotional mistakes, and a coach who seems intent on getting rid of those mistakes. But as the season goes on, it becomes clear that coach is not equipped to get rid of those mistakes. That's what I'd like to avoid. And I feel like I got a bad vibe just from that answer. It's just one press conference answer. But that's where my mind is today, at least on the Green Bay Packers. You have thoughts on the Brewers or the Packers? Take more of your phone calls on the other side. We got a loaded back half of the show. Dom Cotroneo, 445. Peter Bukowski at the top of the hour at 5 o'clock, and then Ryan Glasspiegel later on. So a lot of guests later. If you want to join in and talk Packers or talk Brewers or whatever, let's do it now. 608-321-1670 to you on the other side of this break.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Matt, at the end of last season, Brian mentioned wanting to be able to control football games more in certain situations. Fast forward to yesterday, I mean, a ton of situational work, including one spot. It looked like almost the exact situation that the Bears were in at the end of that Lambeau game last year.
Very observant of you.
Is that a direct line, though? You know what I mean? Like, there are games that you were in, and it's right there at the end, and you couldn't quite control them. Is that?
Yeah, I think that was that one specifically that's 100% on me. So that's why you do situational work so that you have a plan in place for that moment, so you don't make a mistake in the moment when everybody's watching, and it costs you games when that happens.
That's Aaron Nagler asking a question to Matt LaFleur earlier today, and I think it's a good one, and it builds off of something that I discussed with Mike last night, who was tuned in last night. Said, Grant, they're doing a lot of situational work at practice. Remember we talked about this last night? A lot of situational work, and I followed up with Mike. I said, Mike, I'm trying to read in between the lines. I don't want to assign a take on your behalf, because Mike is just sharing what he sees and what he hears. And Mike has opinions. Mike will give a take, but like me, I'm not reporting anything. If I get on the air and I just read the box score, what am I? I'm not in Green Bay. I'm not at the games. I'm here in the studio. My job is I give you an opinion, or I lead a conversation. Mike, a little bit different, but last night I asked Mike, I'm like, Mike, I just want to make sure that I'm reading your tone and your take here correctly. You think that they're maybe even going a little bit overboard with situational work, or putting the cart before the horse, in that the situational work, the detailed stuff, is towards the end, right? Like basketball, we all played high school basketball, middle school basketball, something like that. When the season starts, are you working on out of bounds plays? Are you working on 30 seconds left, down 2, you don't have the ball? No, what are you doing in the first week? You're running suicides. You're doing basketball drills. You're doing shell drills. You're doing, 3-on-2, 2-on-1, that type of stuff. You're not getting specific until you've built a little bit of a base. Now, if the Packers defense wants to go heavy on situational work, makes a little bit more sense. It's Jeff Hafley's second year. A lot of those guys are back, and Hafley has talked like, man, this year feels so different because we actually have a base from which to work. Last year, we were kind of starting from scratch. This year, we can kind of further get keyed in on the details. And Matt LaFleur's been here, and Jordan Love's been here, but there's certainly, they're adding some new pieces on offense, new rookie wide receivers, those sorts of things. And the defense is always ahead of the offense, from what I'm always told, seemingly always how it plays out. And it seems like the Packers are really, really going heavy in situational work. And I'm glad that Nagler asked about it. I'll play this one more time for you, because Brian Gutekunst talked in his end of year presser, and I something I want to discuss and go back to. We want to control the ball games better down the stretch.
Matt, at the end of last season, Brian mentioned wanting to be able to control football games more in certain situations. Fast forward to yesterday, I mean, a ton of situational work, including one spot. It looked like almost the exact situation that the Bears were in at the end of that Lambeau game last year.
Very observant of you.
Is that a direct line, though? You know what I mean? Like, there are games that you were in, and it's right there at the end, and you couldn't quite control them. Is that?
Yeah, I think that was that one specifically that's 100% on me. So,
by the way, he's correct about the Bears. I've talked about this. You're sick of hearing me bitch about why he took that timeout against the Bears, but he is. I'm glad he said that, That's on you, buddy. That's not on, well, Jaden Reed needs to know to stay in bounds. No. Take a timeout or don't. That's on you.
That's why you do situational work so that you have a plan in place for that moment, so you don't make a mistake in the moment when everybody's watching, and it costs you games when that happens.
So correct. When Brian Gutekunst talks about controlling games, you can control games with play calling and clock management and things like, certainly, yeah. When Brian Gutekunst talks about controlling games at the end, that to me is more execution based. And I've given you these hypothetical scenarios time and time again. I know not everybody listens to every second, every day, but you've heard this before probably. 5 minutes, fourth quarter, Packers up by 4. The defense just got you a stop. Jordan Love now has the ball. You drive down, run a couple of minutes and score a touchdown, the game's over. You slam the door. That's what when I hear controlling games late, that's what I think of. Now, the defense can do that too. Let's say it's a tie game with 5 minutes left and the Packers offense gets the ball and they put together a 4-minute drive and they march down the field. Now, they can't punch it into the end zone, but they eat a lot of clock. They leave a minute left. The opponent has 1 timeout, and now the Packers lead by 3 and are kicking off. That's a situation I want the Packers defense to be able to hold up there and get off the field. That's controlling the game, getting a stop when you need a stop, getting a score when you need a score, getting first downs and running clock when you need to get first downs and run clock. That, to me, that's situational. That's controlling ball games. The Matt LaFleur stuff, the taking timeouts and that stuff, that's coach. I don't need that role played on a practice field. LaFleur and his brain trust, that's something they have to figure out. Don't put that on, the offensive line needs to do that. No, like taking a timeout has nothing to do with the players on the field, right? Managing the clock or deciding when to kick or when to go or when to punt. That's decision-making upstairs. That's not something that can be worked out on a practice field. You know what I mean? That's not when Brian Gutekunst talks about controlling a game. That's not what I think. Although I think Matt LaFleur needs to be better at that. Last year, there was lots of evidence. He regressed last year. We talked about that. Controlling a game means Jordan Love is mature. The offense is cool, calm, and collected. They are perfectly equipped and mentally sharpened to come into that scenario, the hypothetical that I just gave you, where if we put together a drive here and punch it in the end zone, the game's over. Or even we put together a drive here and kick a field goal, the game's over, right? Not leaving it in the hands of our defense to get a stop when required. But when that happens, the defense, I would like to be able to step up and get a stop as well, right? Controlling the game and executing in the most stressful or in the most important moments. That's controlling a game to me. That's not situational work that's done on a practice field. That's just running your offense at a high level when it means the most, right? To me, that's not something that has anything to do with Matt LaFleur. And I think he basically said that in fewer words. The second half of that answer, one more time. One more time, excuse me. One more time. My space bar is sticky.
There are games that you were in and it's right there at the end and you couldn't quite control it. Is that?
Yeah, I think that was that one specifically that's 100% on me. So,
I also hear that as, that's not something that we need to work out on a practice field. I just need to be better.
That's why you do situational work so that you have a plan in place for that moment, so you don't make a mistake in the moment when everybody's watching, and it costs you games when that happens.
Correct. What is this right here?
For that moment.
The press conference is not everything. You can speak with your chest, Matt. We've been doing this a while. Coach Freed. Well, nice to get a text from Coach. Says, hey, Grant, Coach Freed here checking in from a Dallas dive bar. Just texting to see if you're prepared for the Warhawks to beat down on the Eagles this fall. My WEAC sources are telling me the Warhawks are poised for a big year and the Eagles may be regressing. Cheers. Well, we'll see. We're going to lean on Dale when the time comes. We have not gotten into our WEAC preview yet. Maybe in the next couple of weeks, we'll lean on him. It is WEAC Wednesday after all. It's just kind of quiet. Teams getting ready to be back in camp. We will have Jesse Temple tomorrow, not to talk about the WEAC, but he's been in Platteville for Badger practices. So we'll talk with Jesse tomorrow. The Eagles may regress, but regressing from the spot they've been. Still not a bad spot to be, Coach Freed. Good luck to your Warhawks. I think the rest of the WEAC has kind of caught up to you guys. The jig might be up for you Warhawks. I don't know. You won in baseball. Sure. I think a big part of the Warhawks' struggles last couple of years, more just the rest of the conference getting better. All of a sudden, Stout is awesome. I want to see Stout follow up another great year this year on top of UWL, obviously, my alma mater, but my spiritual alma mater, UW Stout. As a Menominee Indian turned Mustang myself, I'd like to see the Blue Devils continue to succeed. We'll get Dale on the Coosa Register, our WEAC correspondent. We'll get there. One more segment. We'll talk Brewers for a couple minutes, and then we're going to get to Dom Cotroneo, WTMJ, and FanDuel, the FanDuel channel, FanDuel Sportsnet, FanDuel Sport Wisconsin. Whatever. You know the channel. You know who I'm talking about. But we'll talk Brewers for a couple of minutes next to kind of set the table for Dom.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I'm going to throw some numbers at you. I probably know what you're going to say, but 44 and 16 in your last 60, 25 games over 500. There's all these numbers that we can throw out about how good you guys have played over the stretch. When you take a step back and you look at those numbers or you hear those, understanding you're looking at the next game, I mean, does that any of that mean anything to you? Is it
I mean, of course it does. I mean, of course it does. But you got to look at, you really have to be disciplined right now. More than ever before, we got to be disciplined. It's how we play and the mindset we're in when we play, because circumstances say ball could have bounced the other way and we're not, those numbers aren't there. You know, you have to just be consistent in how you prepare and be attached to your process, not your results. Now, from a team standpoint, the fact that we're putting it all together, I know the guys feel good about themselves and they should. And I want them to. And I'm not putting them down in any way. I love this team. I love who they are. But you have to play the game a certain way. And you can't assume that everything's going to go our way going forward. And you're going to have some bumps in the road. But you have 49 games in the regular season left to play. And if we take care of business there, then we'll have another season, you know. But this team is full of the right people. And that doesn't necessarily mean you win baseball games. But if you put it together and you take advantage of your strengths and you stay disciplined and you stay emotionally attached to the process, you know, you'll keep playing hard every game. And I've seen that out of them.
That's Pat Murphy last night. A little long, I know, but I wanted the full question from Todd Rosiak and the full answer from Murph, because I think it's important. You hear that answer and you might think, oh, what a nice message about a team that's keeping its head and keeping its focus despite all of the winning. It's not really the question that Todd asked. You would hear that answer and think, well, you know, whoever asked that question must have been like, you know, Murph, all this winning, you know, how do you keep your guys engaged? How do you keep them locked in? That's not at all what the question was. The question was, look at how many freaking games you guys have won. You're 25 over. You know, how do you feel about that? And Murph's like, yeah, of course, it's great. But, and then gave a long answer unprompted about now more than ever is the time to remain disciplined. And I said this on Bill's show earlier today. It's worth mentioning again. The Brewers' success offensively, with the depth of their pitching staff, especially their rotation and their stuff in the bullpen, it's really a question of whether the offense can score runs, right? That's the deciding factor for this team. The offense is driven by discipline, not because they try harder and they're grittier and they're a bunch of AAA guys fighting for their careers. And I don't mean that, although I think that might be true too. It's quite literally the style that they play. Every pitch you're battling. I'm not swinging at balls. I'm only swinging at strikes. And when I swing, I'm not whiffing. That's how their whole lineup profiles out, right? Swinging at the right pitches and making contact when you do. And that takes a lot of discipline. That takes a lot of focus. You cannot walk up to the plate. The Brewers hitters can't walk up to the plate thinking, yeah, you know, going for 5 in a row tonight. I'll just rip a couple here. Oh, there's strike one. All right, no big deal. Stretch it out. You know, pitch up and in. Ooh, fouled it back. All right, down 0-2. I'll take my time out. Like, no, they have to play a crisp and clean brand of baseball, and it has to be every pitch, every at-bat, every spot in the lineup. Because if there's one guy in that lineup that's not committed to this style, that's not committed to passing the buck, passing the baton to the next guy, it doesn't work. It's like a circuit with a breaking point. We all built circuits in school, and some of you are like, yeah, Grant, and some of us have real jobs and build them in real life. Yeah, okay, you do as well. Shout out to the men and women who are wiring our houses and make sure they don't burn down. You know that in most circuits, and here we go, well, not parallel circuits. You just shut up and let me do this analogy. You have a circuit that has all these sorts of lights and bells and whistles and thingamajigs. You break it in one spot, the whole thing goes dark, right? It's the same thing with this Brewers offense. It works because the first guy in the lineup, the fifth guy, the seventh, the eighth guy, they're all committed to passing the baton, putting together a quality at bat, putting the ball in play, or walking and passing it along to the next guy. You know what I mean? And that's discipline. That's an inherently disciplined style of play. That takes a lot of focus. You need to be locked in order to play that way. I have an example of, someone who takes a little bit of a different approach to offense. Here's another manager, just taking him at random from last night, this is another manager talking about an offense that's struggling. Again, I picked it at random.
Well, look, I mean, the name of the game is to square the ball up and get on base and create rallies. And, you got to do it in all sorts of situations and all times of the year. And we're just in a little rut right now where we're not doing it. This is a very good offensive baseball team. It will happen. You never enjoy going through stretches like this. I think if you can always, when you're slumping, you kind of feel like you're pressing because you're not getting any good results. We're just got some guys not in great places swinging the bat right now. We'll get them there.
It'll happen. We'll get there. We're just slumping. It'll turn around. You think Murphy would say it'll turn around? No, Murphy would crack skulls and light his guys up in press conferences for right or for wrong, because it's a little bit more of an active approach, let's say. Two different styles of offense, too, to be fair. But, one team's 25 over and another is like 500 over the last 2 months. Can't score despite having a ton of slug in their lineup relative to the Brewers. All right, we got about 2 minutes, and then we got to get to Dom Cotroneo. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, Tommy in Madison.
Hey, what's up, Tommy?
Not too much. I haven't called in a while, and I'm just very excited about Brewers, so I figured I'd call you and just express that excitement.
I can't believe they're 25 over. What the hell?
It is wild. Fantastic. Couple of concerning injuries, just powering through them right now. I just think I do not miss Craig Counsell, him speaking there. I don't miss that at all.
Yeah, correct.
Just, don't miss that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Secondly, there is something to the ball bouncing kind of thing. It seems like everything that can go the Brewers' way goes the Brewers' way in these games. And it doesn't make a difference in the game because we're winning by like 4 or 5 runs. But I think it helps with demoralizing the other team.
God, yeah.
A ball that's supposed to be foul gets grabbed by Contreras right away and thrown out in the middle of a 2-out rally, and you just see the looks on the other players' faces of just bewildered of how that happened during their one rally they have going on during the game. All those things are continuing to happen, so I understand where they're coming from on that side of things, but I wouldn't be surprised if they came down to earth, but I've also been saying that for a month. So,
well, there is a chance, Tommy, you're not wrong. There is a chance they don't finish the season 25 over. You know what I mean? Like they're on another, what are they going for, 6 in a row tonight? Yeah, 6 in a row. Like there's a chance that, correct, they do not end up at this high water mark. Hey, put the ball in play and run fast. It's amazed how many teams don't have the appetite to field cleanly and to field aggressively and to do all those things over the span of a series, especially teams now this time of year that are out of it. They don't want to deal with it. These Braves, they're not used to being out of it. They're like, hey, man, screw this. They'll throw in the towel so fast. And that team is ripe for the pickings for a Brewers team like this. All right, let's take a break. I want to have as much time with Dom on the other side, Dominic Cotroneo, WTMJ, the pre and the post, contributor on the FanDuel Sports Network as well. I don't think there is any better voice on the radio anywhere to give informed, accurate, and engaging Brewers conversation. We'll be lucky to have him next. Stick around.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
You really have to be disciplined right now. More than ever before, we got to be disciplined. It's how we play and the mindset we're in when we play.
One more time, there's that soundbite from Pat Murphy. I love how that was a response to Todd's question, Todd Rosiak. Not about like, hey, how do you keep your guys engaged? How do you keep them locked in? It'd be a reasonable answer. Well, despite the winning streak and all these wins, we want to keep guys like, no, he was asked about all their recent successes. And Pat's like, well, of course, we celebrate that. But now more than ever, we need to stay disciplined. Speaking of discipline, nobody better. Dom Cotroneo is here. Dom, it's not just that the Brewers need to stay focused and disciplined despite the outside noise. He is, on some level, quite literally talking about the way they play, right? Like, if these guys don't stay bought into every pitch and every at-bat to pass the baton, this whole thing kind of doesn't work at all.
Yeah, the whole point of the Brewers' success is the collective. In the words of Connor Dawson, it's 9 versus 1, 9 batters versus 1 pitcher. And the reason why this offense works so well is because you're guaranteed to get a good at bat. And there's a variety of ways to get to a good at bat. There's the obvious ones: hit a home run, right? Hit a double, change the scoreboard. But then there's the 8-pitch battle. Maybe you ultimately ground out, or you move a guy over, or maybe even you do damage. You hit a sacrifice fly on the first pitch. That's still a quality at bat. You change the scoreboard. So every single guy in the lineup understands that maybe they don't have the loudest, biggest, incredible tools that every other team would be looking for. But when you put them all up, stack them up collectively, that's when the discipline comes in of saying, all right, Andrew Vaughn, look at I think it was the 7th inning yesterday. Christian Yelich gets left on left, man on first, 2 outs. They bring in a lefty. He's disciplined enough to take a walk. Andrew Vaughn, he had a great RBI earlier in the game. He's disciplined enough to take a walk. And then it sets the stage for Isaac Collins to get a pitch down the middle, lines a 2-run single up the middle. That's exactly what he's talking about when Murph talks about being disciplined.
So Rosiak asked him about, whatever, their best 60-game stretch in franchise history. It seems like in each of the last couple of seasons, there's been a stat like that, best start through 50 games, or like they've just won at such a high and consistent level. Can you kind of contextualize or help us better understand how wild this turnaround is compared to where they were in the first month to now being 25 games over and the best record in baseball?
To put it lightly and to sort of bluntly, the guys that were the reason that the team got off to a slow start aren't on the team anymore. I'm just being honest.
It's a different team.
Good luck to Tyler Alexander. Good luck to Elvin Rodriguez. Good luck to Yoel Payamps. Good luck to, so-and-so. But it's just like, we've been banging this drum since spring training of like, when that team broke and what the team they had was like, this is not the starting staff that they initially thought they were going to have, nor did they think the bridge was what they thought they were going to have. And thank goodness for Chad Patrick in those first 2 months of the season, because he was, rookie of the year until the Brewers had a surplus of pitching all of a sudden and had to send him to AAA. And furthermore, when you look at the first 2 months of the season, Caleb Durbin wasn't up yet. They were still trying the Oliver Dunn experiment. That didn't work. They pulled the plug on that. They still had, a vague understanding of how good Yelly could be, but Yelly wasn't ready yet. The body wasn't responding yet. And you got him going. You saw him trying out the toe tap, trying out the leg kick back and forth. And you could see that Yelly's got more than this. But then when you've got him going, and then all of a sudden, here comes Sal Frelick being a batting title contender. And then here's Bryce Terang hitting 275. And then here's William Contreras doing nothing the first 3 months of the year. Now all of a sudden he's woken up. It's like, oh yeah, this is exactly what it was supposed to look like leaving spring training.
I never thought it would reach this level. I think even the most pessimistic Brewers fan in the first month was like, well, yeah, they'll be better. Like, they're not going to suck this bad all year. I didn't think they had this in them. They've just reached this this cruising altitude. I always like to say cruising altitude. When a team starts performing and winning, where it's like you can go, okay, like, yeah, they're not going to win every game, but we feel like this is how this is supposed to be going. Andrew Vaughn's been a big part of it. Why has he been able to be so effective? And what do the Brewers believe internally about him moving forward? Do they believe that this is something that can be sustained, or is this just a flash in the pan while they get some other guys healthy?
I think everyone in the baseball world needs to take a moment and remember, this dude's not a nobody. Like, this dude was the 3rd overall pick, was a Golden Spikes Award winner, was graded as the best hitter coming out of the draft in 2019. Like, this dude's tasted success. Like, this dude's a ball player. And look, the White Sox, I'm not going to try to tear down the White Sox player development system. But it's like, Vaughn was really good his first 2.5 years in the org. And then you get all these changes, new manager, new hitting coaches, new philosophy, new manager. It's just, there's a lot going on. And then furthermore, you look at their lineup construction, Vaughn was always hitting behind either Benintendi or Robert. But then you look behind him, it was a whole bunch of nothing. And I feel like he was pressing, and I feel like he was saying well, this guy behind me has not done this before, and I'm getting a bunch of sliders. I got to hit this slider. He's chasing pitches out of the zone, and you get lost in the woods. You keep trying to do a little too much. Then you sit down and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm hitting 175, and I'm on the worst team in baseball. What just happened? So he is known for having bat to ball skills and having plate discipline and having good under the hood numbers. It's just the Brewers kind of sort of had to remind him, slap him on the shoulder and be like, you're that guy, man. You were the 3rd overall pick. You're a Golden Spikes Award winner. All we're asking for is you to play ball. We're not asking for you to be the aircraft carrier or be the guy that's going to hit 35 home runs and lead this team to October. It's like, nah, be a complimentary piece, and let's see what you can do.
How have you seen Isaac Collins grow and improve this season from where he started?
I'm going to be honest. I didn't see it coming. I mean, just straight up, we were in spring training and talking with the other beat writers, and you always kind of bounce ideas off of each other, to make sure you're not missing something obvious. And we all kept looking those final 10 days of spring training. It's Isaac Collins is still here. Isaac Collins is still here. And then I remind folks all the time on my program, this team was so unsure about left field in spring training. They signed Manny Margot and Mark Canha to minor league deals.
Right.
They had no idea. We didn't know how much Yelly was going to play out there. We figured it wasn't much. You didn't know what Isaac Collins is, who, oh, by the way, is an infielder. They had been working him out there in left field to say, just in case, we see you as a third base option. And then you factor in Blake Perkins getting injured. That's what kept Collins available. And then, we were all thinking, how are you going to fit Garrett Mitchell, Isaac Collins, and Sal Frelick and Jackson Chourio on this roster? Then Garrett gets hurt again. And that was the moment when Isaac Collins said, this is my job. And he has been unreal since early June because of his plate discipline, because of the ability. I was just talking about this with the writer with The Athletic earlier today, Derek Van Riper. The Brewers have a knack for finding guys that understand the strike zone. And that makes up for the guys that maybe don't hit the ball 115 miles an hour off the bat. Because when you have somebody like Isaac Collins, who, hey, 103 still can get a home run, but you can also draw walks. You can also have a 380 on base as a rookie. That's really dang valuable in today's game.
So I want to ask you not about some negatives, but the Freddie Peralta discourse the last week or so has been interesting. And it's funny. It's like, are we sure we want him starting game one in the playoffs? And then you talk about who you want to start game one, which is a good sports talk radio thing. I still think he's having an underrated season. He's won 13 games and knock on wood, doesn't miss a start. He's been that guy for the last couple of years. Why? He's never been the most efficient guy, but why has it seemingly been worse in these last two starts? What does he need to be better? What does he need to get back on track?
It all starts with fastball command with Freddie. I mean, everything else has gotten so good for him. I think you're right. This has been an underrated season from like a pitchability standpoint from Freddie Peralta. Changeup's been so good. I mean, he uses his changeup like most righties would use a sinker. He still needs to command it to both sides of the plate. He only commands it to the arm side right now. But for the crowd and for the mob, if you will, about Freddie Peralta, as bad as it went yesterday, as bad, as frustrating, it's like, gosh, I mean, oh, only one run. Okay. Yeah. It like that's the worst it could have gone? I mean, aside from home runs and all that stuff, it's like command was non-existent. Curveball they weren't chasing. He doesn't really throw the slider anymore. But for him to have a different tool, maybe in 2022, he's force feeding the fastball and then it's getting popped. And it's like, I got nothing else to go with. Now he's got the changeup. Now he's got the curveball to get him out and to somehow get through 5 innings yesterday. He's going to start a playoff game. I don't understand where that discourse is coming from. He's going to start a playoff game, and he's going to be fine. And the way that I view it is the Brewers do not care who starts game 1, game 2. I think they do care who starts an elimination game, and that would be Brandon Woodruff.
Yeah, and I agree with that. What would Chris Hook be telling Freddie Peralta after these last 2 starts? How does he get that fastball control kind of lasered in?
Well, he's been changing up his mechanics a little bit lately. You may have noticed yesterday he's not going over the head anymore. He's been doing that the last couple of starts with his windup. He's been really incorporating the slide step a lot more with runners on base, trying to be conscious of runners stealing against him. I think he's deploying it in the wrong times, personally. So, again, I'm not a pitching coach, but I think Chris Hook is just telling him, hey, man, your fastball's still elite. Just go dial it up. Go let it eat. And if they hit it, so what? But you've got other tools that can play off of that, but it all has to start with the fastball.
No, I would agree. And I'll overreact to Freddie Peralta starts with the best of them. Sometimes that's what sports talk radio is for. But then again, it's like, oh yeah, he has 13 wins. And I think we're all underrating the season that he's had for sure. And it's a good problem that there's 4 or 5 other pitchers. You're like, I also would like that guy in a potential playoff spot or in a must-win game.
And these are the first 3 starts he hasn't really completed 6 innings. I mean, that's the other underrated thing about this. And we've known him as a 5 and dive, but all of a sudden, this season, he's been getting 6 and into the 7th. We'd like to see it more often, of course. But I mean, shoot, this dude is giving you way more than $8 million worth of production. And I think that's another reason why the Brewers I would be shocked if they traded Freddie Peralta this offseason.
I would as well. Maybe we can talk about that at a different time. We'll listen to you on the pre and the post tonight, Dom. Appreciate you always.
Thanks, guys.
Dom Cotroneo, WTMJ, the pre and the post, and then helps out on the FanDuel broadcast as well. You will not find better coverage on the radio. No better informed and entertaining commentary as well. Get a little bit into the nitty gritty with Dom, which is fun. When we come back, speaking of nitty gritty, oh boy, Peter Bukowski going to join us. Locked On Packers podcast. I connected with him during Bill's show earlier today. Some really good Packers points. So you're going to hear that interview next. We'll reconnect on the other side of that. I'm going to be here. I'm just going to press play on an interview that I recorded it earlier today. It's not like I'm digging it up out of the archives. So keep the text, keep the comments coming. We can keep engaging. But coming back, you're going to hear that interview with Pete Bukowski, Locked On Packers.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers are back on the field this morning as they continue to prep for their final preseason game on Saturday against the Jets at Lambeau Field. It's unclear exactly how many of the team's key players will take part in the opener, just like Coach Matt LaFleur likes it.
Well, I mean, they're football players, so everybody's got to go into it expecting to play.
A year ago, quarterback Jordan Love played just 1 series, throwing a long touchdown on that possession before getting pulled. Could a quick hook like that happen again?
We'll see. However I'm feeling in the moment. I just told all these guys, just get ready to play football. And then whenever we're ready to pull you, we'll pull you.
Meanwhile, one guy that definitely won't be out there is Nate Hobbs. The quarterback underwent knee surgery on Saturday, expected to miss several weeks. Told reporters yesterday he's never had a knee injury before, but is attacking his rehab, determined to return as quickly as possible. Packers will practice again tomorrow. Turning to the Badgers, they were also back on the field this morning in Platteville after getting yesterday off. Their season opener 3 weeks from tomorrow against Miami of Ohio.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
All business owners want the same thing, to make their business succeed. At Rural Mutual, they help that happen. As the third largest writer of commercial business in Wisconsin, they take the time to learn your business so they can properly protect you. Call your local agent today or visit ruralmutual.com.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers and Braves going to close out their series tonight in Atlanta, with Milwaukee looking for a second straight sweep of a series. Crew is in the midst of its best 60-game stretch in team history at 44-16. It has them 4 games up on Chicago in the NL Central for first place. First pitch tonight is set for 6:15. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Kyle, Print.
I just think that we got to continue to be consistent in regards to guys owning their responsibilities in the detail, we're still getting into this and we got a lot more practice left in front of us, but there's got to be a level of urgency in terms of you make a mistake, that mistake cannot happen again. And it's whether it's you or within your position room. I think it's imperative that these guys watch what's going on in front of them. So I think right now where we are as a whole team, I would say it's kind of inconsistent.
Final hour of the Bill Michaels Show. That's Matt LaFleur from this morning. And I isolated that and one other comment as things that I thought were interesting. I find that comment interesting and I find it concerning, to be quite frank, because I feel like we heard that 1,000 times last year. And it kind of feels like, all right, are we just picking up where we left off? Peter Bukowski is here. The Leap, a newsletter that he would love for you to subscribe to. Of course, you know him from the Locked On Packers podcast, and he hopes that you enjoy starting your day with him as much as he enjoys starting his day with you Packers fans. Peter, you look excellent. The offseason is obviously treating you well. How have you been?
I'm good. Just, trying to sneak in a little workout around the lunch hour, late lunch hour for me.
Good for you. Did you, were you struck by that comment from Matt LaFleur? Because a lot of Packers fans, they're in between Matt LaFleur being on the hot seat and him. They're in some middle ground where they want to see something from Matt LaFleur this year. And that felt like an extension of some of the frustration of last season.
I think what happens with coaches like Matt LaFleur, who are so process oriented and so detail oriented, is, and I think this is worse in baseball, but where you just, they say the same thing over and over. And you're just sort of like, well, if you keep saying the same thing and the outcome doesn't seem different, then maybe the thing that you're saying over and over is not the right thing to be saying over and over.
Yeah.
And this was something that, like, I used to joke when I first got into the business covering Ned Yost and the Brewers. He would just, like, Jeff Suppan would get shelled and he'd go, I thought Sup pitched pretty well. And it's just sort of like, can we not?
Yeah.
Like, don't insult our intelligence. Like, we watched the game. We know what happened. I don't think Matt LaFleur does that. But I do think he believes in the process and he believes in focusing on the details. And here's a great example, Grant, that I think we can actually see the dividends, at least in training camp so far. It has been an emphasis for this team. The ball on the ground for the defense, creating fumbles. And now it's like 3 or 4 times a practice. It's like, oh, so-and-so created a fumble here, or they created a pass breakup here because of, and like Corey Ballantyne gets pulled off the street and makes a play on McCole Hardman today in practice that seemed to follow the emphasis that's been part of the details. That's what it is. It's a detail. So I think sometimes from the outside, because we're not in the practice rooms, we're not in the film room where Matt LaFleur is like, hey, this detail, like, details are details for a reason. So we hear Matt LaFleur say it's all about the details, and we're not part of the conversations about said details. We feel like we're on the outside looking in. And I think that's where that disconnect can come. I think the Packers have won enough games that their process is probably pretty good generally. Without knowing the specifics of it, it's hard to really know.
Sure. It just sounds like, well, details, like he's just saying like a filler word when for his perspective on that word is much. It's a very good observation, Peter. Thank you for that. My concern is that for the last month or two of the season, I was waiting. When are the mental mistakes going to disappear? The pre-snap stuff, the drops. And it just at a certain point became clear that that's who the team was. And Matt LaFleur is kind of saying the same things. What reason do we have to think this year that some of that stuff is going to be ironed out?
Well, one of the reasons why, Grant, I think that seems so frustrating last year is we saw them get rid of them in 2023. Like we saw it happen in the second half with a younger group. And so why is it that with a more veteran group, still the youngest team in the league, but a more veteran group, why does it seem like they're still making these mistakes? Like this is a team who in a playoff game called an RPO where no one ran the route, no one ran the pass option on the RPO. And so it's like, those are the mistakes that can happen. And that was at a time that play was against San Francisco. That was in that stretch where they weren't making those mistakes. And I think what happened last year was more about the physical mistakes than the mental mistakes to me. It was the drops in the big moments. It was not finishing a tackle or a sack on a third down. It was those kinds of things. And it's like, those are physical mistakes that are not physical shortcomings, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think Jaden Reed has bad hands. I think he dropped the ball. Like, the scouting term for those kinds of things is concentration drops. I don't think Dontavian Wicks has bad hands. I think that he gets so excited to run after the catch that sometimes he forgets to bring the ball with him. And so to the point that we started with, those are the details that if you're Matt LaFleur, you have to be on. Secure the catch, and then we'll figure out running after the catch. But and this is something that you and I have just discussed on and off air, is the constant competition helping this team?
Yeah.
Is part of the Dontavian Wicks drops part and parcel of he doesn't know if he's going to get the next rep. He doesn't know if he's going to get the next target, and that you press a little bit more. Without a degree in psychology, and maybe even then, I don't know that I could begin to parse that. But I do think that is something that you can begin to wonder about. I have said all offseason that I hope there is a more established pecking order. It seems like Matthew Golden might be sorting that out just by being him and Romeo Doubs, just like being clearly the two best guys, and Josh Jacobs being Josh Jacobs, that this gets sorted out naturally. I think if you're Matt LaFleur, you kind of hope that happens, right?
I would agree. And I think the competition at some spots, like I'm glad they paid Zach Tom. Like I'm glad they just did that. And it was because some of these players, it's just,
they're not the Cowboys.
Well, right. Yeah. Like some of these things are just easy. I understand they have a lot to sort out at wide receiver and other positions, but that was not a difficult one. You mentioned Matthew Golden. I talked with Mike Clemens about this. Your friend, Kevin Clark, having a discussion with Jordan Love, and he was glowing about Matthew Golden. Do you think he is the real article? Can we actually rely on him to change this offense fundamentally this season?
That's so much to put on a rookie, right? Like fundamental change, paradigmatic change. I think that's probably too big to put on a rookie. But last year, the Packers were bottom 5 in third down success rate, bottom 5 in third down EPA, despite being a top 5 offense. That's crazy, Grant. Like that's almost impossible to do. And so if you can get a little bit more consistency on third down, like remember the Lions rain game, they dropped, I think 6 third down passes alone, including a Dontavian Wicks drop in the end zone. So if you just have someone who's playing regular snaps who can be relied upon a little bit more, just the consistency piece, I think is something that would help this team. And you're already seeing it. The clips, they're finally putting out clips. Like it's crazy that they needed a first round receiver to put clips on the internet, but here they are. Thank God.
And Bellin Health is sponsoring those clips. So let's give
that helps too. Maybe they were just waiting for the sweet American cash to flow in, which, hard to blame them for that. But so has like all of them been Matthew Golden? It's like all of them have been Matthew Golden or Romeo Doubs. And so I think that tells us a lot about where this team is wanting to go. The other part of this, Grant, and I've been tracking this, and maybe I'm a sicko, but they have opened team practice. So the team portion, like the 11-on-11s, in heavy personnel. So 12 personnel with two tight ends, or 21 with 2 running backs. So 2 receivers on the field. Every time they have opened with 2 receivers on the field, Matthew Golden has been one of them. So that tells you he is at worst like the 3rd receiver on this team, boundary receiver on the team, probably the 2nd. Now Dontavian Wicks has missed some time, so that's part of this too. we're like a breath away from Dontavian Wicks getting Wally pipped on the outside of this. Like I feel like he is in danger here of getting passed on the depth chart by Matthew Golden. And then that's before Christian Watson comes back.
Yeah, I suppose. And I mean, if Bo Melton, you forget about Bo Melton or Malik
Bo
Heath,
Melton plays a different position now.
Well,
So that's one less guy competing for the job.
That's true. Matt LaFleur said, I think in his end of year presser, we were fine when we got big plays. If Matthew Golden just supplies a couple of those every once in a while, forget the consistency aspect. If he can just give some explosives here and there, that makes a difference, right?
Well, but I think the offense is explosive enough. They were among league leaders last year in explosive plays. What they needed was down-to-down consistency. Like if you look at the offense, they were near the league in like some of the nerdy stats that I love, like EPA per play, but the success rate was much lower when they threw the ball because on 2nd and 8, you didn't know what was going to happen here. And to the point that I was making earlier about 3rd down, and you and I and me and Bill and me on the show have had this conversation a ton. I feel like in the last 2 years, on 3rd and 8, what's the play?
Yeah,
where's the ball going? If the answer can be Matthew Golden, or the answer can be Matthew Golden or Tucker Kraft, or maybe you sneak, someone wide open on some sort of like schemed up trick'em dickum play, like great. That would be, I think, so helpful to this team. Matt LaFleur is good at generating explosives. Like look how many explosive runs they had last year.
Mm-hmm.
The Jaden Reed end arounds and all of that spinner motion and all the cool stuff they did with Malik Willis. Like that's Matt LaFleur. They have the coach for that. Can you find someone on 3rd and 8 who can win on a slant? Who can win on, some sort of just, it's me versus you. Let's just go get open or just make a play. You don't have to be open. Just go make a play. And I think Matthew Golden, they're hoping is the kind of receiver who can do that.
Let's say there's a radio host, it doesn't matter who has a gut feeling, needed a take in a segment for the show and said, you know what, actually, I'm going to go against the grain. I think Romeo Doubs is just the clear cut, like number 1 wide receiver this year. We look back at the end and say, oh yeah, like all along, the most yards, the most catches, maybe not by leaps and bounds, but I feel like if he stays healthy, he has all the reason to be motivated. We've seen a little bit of personality, not a ton, but a lot for him. I just feel like he's going to remind everyone that, yeah, I'm the guy with the strong hands and I'm the guy who doesn't make the mental mistakes for the most part.
Yeah. And I think, by all accounts, he has been that guy in training camp, has played particularly well the last week, apparently. And so how do you argue? Since 2022, he's probably been the most consistent receiver on the team. The problem was last year, had that incident before the Rams game. Is he over that? I don't know. Does preseason make it low stakes? And once the season starts, and he does, to your point, he's motivated because he wants to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if he's not getting targets, is he going to be happy about that? And so if this ascent from Matthew Golden, it seems like it's kind of raised his game, which would be a cool thing. Like maybe he's like one of those gifted and talented kids who's like, none of these other kids are as smart as me, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And now there's this other really smart kid who like beats him in 4 moves in chess on the first day. And he's like, oh crap.
This seems like a personal analogy.
Anyway, so we have to raise your game in those circumstances.
Yes.
And so maybe that's what's happening with Romeo Doubs right now.
Peter Rukowski, Locked On Packers. I have 2 more. 2 players who I've seen criticized or just not really excelling. Javon Bullard, Jordan Morgan, 2 draft picks from last year. Should we be concerned about those 2 men?
I would say yes and no in the 2 cases. I'm not yet concerned about Javon Bullard. I talked about him on Locked On Packers today, but let me just give you what Matt LaFleur said about Javon Bullard today. I know you guys probably look at one-on-one reps and he gets beat or whatever. That's not what we're looking at. I think he's done an outstanding job in terms of his ability to play within the box, knowing what's going on. He's doing double duty at nickel and safety. He's really good, young player that's going to continue to get better and better and better the more he plays. That's 3 betters, Grant. Better and better and better.
Okay.
They love Javon Bullard and have loved him from the jump. So I'm not worried about him yet, but I do wonder if he's one of your 3 best cover corners. And if he's not, how does that affect the way you want to deploy him this season?
Isn't he safety? Am I an idiot? He's not a corner. Wasn't supposed to be.
But he plays the nickel in their 3 corner packages. So yes, he's a safety, but he plays in the slot when they're facing 3 receiver sets, which means he's got to cover receivers at times. And I don't know that that's the best use of his abilities. But then you have Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney. So if he's going to play safety, it gets tricky. I still think he can be a really good player. I really liked Javon Bullard coming out of college. I'm confirming priors here a little bit. Let me confirm some more priors. I thought Jordan Morgan was a guard coming out of Arizona. I thought it was kind of obvious to me that he was a guard. Doesn't mean I'm right, but to me, it was obvious. And then he plays guard last year. So why do they pretend he's a tackle now? And it seems like he's had issues at left tackle, Lucas Van Ness. I mean, we watched on Family Night. He could not block Lucas Van Ness, which I think says more about Jordan Morgan at this point than Lucas Van Ness, who's had some other good reps. Like, I don't want to pretend like that's the case. But I just don't think Jordan Morgan is a left tackle. And I think the sooner they realize that, the better it will be for everybody, because then he can just compete with Sean Ryan, be the guard. I went back and watched the tape, Grant. I liked what I saw last year of him at guard. I've never been enamored with the tape at left tackle. I just don't think he is a left tackle. And I wrote about this for the Leap a week or two ago. I said, I think what they are doing is having him prove he can't play left tackle, which is what I think you should do with collegiate tackles. Just let's give him a shot and let him prove he can't. Let's testing. Give him a chance to show that he can. And if he can't, he's a guard. I think worst case for him is he's splitting time to open the season with Sean Ryan at right guard. Like, I don't, that's his floor. I think they're letting him see if he can earn that left tackle job. I frankly, personally do not see it. So I'm not worried about him in general, because I do think he can be a very good guard. But if they're going to force him to play tackle, I'm very worried about that.
A scheduling question very quickly, very brief setup. The way that I look at the schedule, there's like 8 or 9 games that are all types of games they lost last year. Divisional opponents or elite teams, right? So I'm not doing the math, but you gotta win some of those this year in a way that you didn't last year. So let's say they have to win half. To me, 2 of the best opportunities are weeks 1 and 2. It's going to be a lot easier to beat Detroit at home week 1 and Washington on a short week than potentially going to Denver or going to US Bank. So how do we properly establish and emphasize the importance of week 1 and week 2 without people like, oh, you're saying week 1 is a must win? Like, you know what I mean? How do we frame those first 2 games?
I mean, I might do the radio thing and say that they're must wins. Like, I just might do that.
I mean, I think they are. I think they are. I think every game's a must win, but then no game's a must win. It's a tricky phrase to deploy.
I think so. Like, you open at home, right? At home against the team that has eaten your lunch in the Matt LaFleur era. They're 1-5 against the Lions in the Matt LaFleur era. Now, one of those games was in 2021 when they were not playing their guys and the game didn't matter and all that stuff. I get it. But Dan Campbell wanted to win that game. He called multiple trick plays and they won that game because they just played better. And this is a team coming off the dumbest, oh my God, the dumbest stat I've heard more times this offseason than any other stat I've ever heard is the 1-5 in the division. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter actually. Because you don't get bonus points for being like, if you go 4-12 or 4-13 and 4 of them are division wins, you don't get a special trophy next to your 4-13 division record. Like, it doesn't matter. Regular record, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But you have to at least look like you can beat Detroit. Maybe you don't, but like, I think that's a game where you have to be like, we win these games now. This is the difference this year is you could not beat good teams last year. You could not beat teams in your division last year. You were a Carl Brooks fingernail away from being 0-6.
There are also Matt LaFleur not calling a stupid timeout. Like, I feel like those games shook out. They deserve to win one and lose one against the Bears. I just think both teams won the wrong game.
Really, they deserve to win both, I think. But sure. But it doesn't matter. 2-4 is not much better than 1-5, right?
Yeah.
So, and then the Washington, I kind of think Washington is a lot overrated.
I'm on board. Yes. So,
like, I think by the time that game rolls around, I can tell you right now, I will be betting on the Packers in that game. I don't know how much the short week matters this early in the season, but like, I kind of feel like not everyone's going to be in super great shape anyway. Week 1 is usually really sloppy. And so having to turn right around and play, maybe it does have the effect of like, there's a compounding effect there. I don't know, because we've never seen anything like this for the Packers. These Thursday games are kind of new in the league, but I don't think it's exaggerating to say this is the biggest first 2 weeks of a Packers season in the Matt LaFleur era, full stop.
I don't know why you said I'm going to do the radio thing here as if to minimize my craft and to say that I just throw stuff on the wall.
Grant, podcasts are radio on demand. So I consider myself very much in that genre of media talent. So we're on the same page here.
And
you started it. You said radio guy first.
I know. Well, sometimes I need a segment. And you were a respecter of the radio game. You always come on when I ask. Thank you so much, Peter. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the preseason game on Saturday.
Oh, I will. Sorry, exhibition game. Thank you, Grant.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Quick hitters, most impressive newcomer so far.
Matthew Golden.
Take me through what makes him special so far.
Man, I think he's shown up since day one and just really shown his play style. Shown what he's all about. I think he came in really polished and has been making plays since day one. He's got very aggressive hands. He's a smooth route runner. He's got speed. So I think for him, it's just continue to understand the playbook and wrap his head around everything that we have in, because we have a very deep system. But when you can see when he knows what he's doing, he's feeling confident. He's been playing lights out, so he's going to be a stud.
I think I referenced that clip or that interview with Pete just a couple minutes ago. Kevin Clark in Green Bay, if you've never watched This Is Football. So I see the clips on Twitter, but occasionally, look, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a huge interview guy. I like interviews. My favorite types of interviews are this. You have a seasoned or well-spoken host who presents concise, direct questions to a very knowledgeable guest. You know what I mean? That's what I like. Peter, Dom, Cotroneo, those are both that's A1 examples. I don't have a lot of interest in listening to interviews with players. I don't find them all that compelling. It's not really for me. So it's nothing against Kevin Clark, who does an unbelievable job. And if you've ever seen the clips of This Is Football and the stuff that he does with ESPN in Omaha, they're great. It's just not always my bag, because here I'm with Vita Vea. It's like, okay, he's a great player. I would rather hear a Tampa Bay beat writer or someone who covers the Bucs talk about Vita Vea. Like, I'd rather have that thing. You know what I mean? Players just, for the most part, usually aren't all that interesting. Jordan Love in press conferences isn't that interesting. I don't think, I just, and that's good. Like, I don't want my quarterback to be creating headlines and controversy. So I don't often watch Kevin Clark's interviews with players, but I did watch his with Jordan Love. He talked about Matthew Golden. He talked, and maybe we'll get to this tomorrow, he talked about his experience learning from Aaron Rodgers. That was pretty insightful. But he talked about Matthew Golden, and Matthew Golden's name keeps coming up in a way that it wouldn't necessarily have to if he wasn't performing well. You know what I mean? Just because the Packers selected a wide receiver at 20 or whatever it was, it's not like the coaches and teammates have, oh man, this Matthew Golden cat. Like, no, if he was behind and he was just one of the guys, I don't think that we'd be hearing these things about Matthew Golden. And I asked Clemens about that earlier today on Bill's show. He's like, yeah, he really has popped. He really has shown very, very strongly. I don't know that I agree with Pete in that he will help them with the details. I just don't know that I want to bet a ton on a rookie fixing a problem that takes seasoning and experience and execution. And now, if he can do that as a rookie, all the credit to him in the world. What I'm looking for Matthew Golden is in the biggest games against the best opponents, when they're game planning for Jaden Reed, Josh Jacobs, Romeo Dobbs, can you find that soft spot in that week's game plan and exploit it? Devontae Adams as a rookie is a great example. Now, I would bet, just because the Packers receiving core this year is not what it was in 2014. Like, it's not, there's no Jordy Nelson. You know what I mean? Like, that guy's not here. But Devontae Adams in 2014 was not a first round pick. He needed a little bit more seasoning, and the offense was more complete around him. He didn't have nearly as big of a void or a big as opportunity to step into as Matthew Golden probably does. But Devontae Adams in 2014 had 2 games where he busted out big time. And it was against the Patriots, when Darrelle Revis and others were, with good reason, locked in on Jordy Nelson. And then the Cowboys in the playoffs, when I would assume, and I don't know, I can't remember who was playing corner for the Cowboys in 2014. If you gave me, I'm serious, if you gave me a half hour to think about it alone in my car, I could probably come up with the name, but I don't remember off the top of my head. And that was the game where Devontae Adams popped. Again, those 2 games, 2 of my favorite Packer games ever, by the way, because remember, pre-2014, 2015 NFC Championship game, we could still watch big-time regular season games and enjoy them. I think 2014 fundamentally changed the amount of buy-in we allowed ourselves to have, with good reason. So I remember that Patriots game. That's that might be my favorite Packer game ever, excluding playoff wins and the Super Bowl year. It was just an unbelievable game at Lambeau the weekend after Thanksgiving, and Devontae Adams had his moment. Can Matthew Golden do that in weeks where it's clear that the enemy defense, the opponent defense, is keyed on Reed, Kraft, Jacobs probably most of all? Can Matthew Golden find his way into a 5-catch, 100-yard game with a touchdown and be the difference maker? Like, that's what I'm looking at. And also, like, can you hit some home runs? Not necessarily on 60-yard bombs, but can you take a 20-yard slant and run another 40? Those types of things. Because I don't know that that's really Romeo Dobbs' bag. He's more of a possession wide receiver. I don't know that that's Tucker Kraft's bag, just because typically that's not the tight end's thing. He's great yards after the catch, and I love his approach of, I don't let defensive backs bring me down in space. He should feel that way. That's how I want a tight end, a football player, to think, especially when I'm from South Dakota. Are you kidding me? I'm going to let some 5'10" corner drag me down in space? That shouldn't happen. At least it shouldn't happen a lot, right? That's kind of what I'm looking for from Matthew Golden. And coming up on the other side, I'm going to play this conversation that I had with Ryan Glasspiegel earlier today. I'm going to go back and I'm going to dig up what Mike said about Matthew Golden earlier. So I'll play that at the very end of the show just for a little bit further context on this. But when we come back, I want to talk with Ryan Glasspiegel. Clumhead Mike on the Brewers text in and says, WAYY, our affiliate up in Eau Claire, Sports Talk 1051, said WAYY had a poll and people were asked who they would pick to pitch in a 1-game must-win game. Miz got 70% and Peralta got 30%. I would have selected Priester. You have good options. what Priester's done is just unbelievable. He just can't miss bats the same way that Peralta or Mizorowski can. I mean, we've seen him do. I mean, he struck out 10 against the Dodgers. Maybe I shouldn't say that he can't miss bats. He's just more of a pitch to contact guy, which can get you efficiency, and that's crucial in the regular season. Batted ball luck can get you, and I don't know that I want to bet on that in the postseason. He's going to start a playoff game, assuming that they make the playoffs, I would imagine. I don't know. The Brewers have a good problem there with options, let's just say, to start potential playoff games. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Ryan Glasspiegel, front office sports, formerly of the New York Post, going to talk about some of the latest tidbits of news between the NFL and ESPN. A big story for those who like Red Zone. Good news for some of you, for many of you. I don't think it's bad news for anyone, but it's particularly good if you're a cable subscriber. You might just get to watch it on linear TV. How great would that be? So Ryan Glasspiegel going to join us next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Lastly, Mike, has Matthew Golden been as impressive as I keep reading and hearing and seeing from people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he just is. Motion, lines up, timing. They send him over the middle. There's 5 defensive backs there. There's Tucker Kraft running across her and all this. He just runs a little delayed slant. He's open. He catches the ball. He brings it in nice. And then once he's got the ball in his hands with that speed, if he can turn it upfield, it's going to be a challenge to chase down number 22.
It's a little bit from Mike this morning, just to continue those thoughts on Matthew Golden. Not super specific, but when Mike gives a seal of approval, I mean, it's the seal of approval saying, yeah, he has been that impressive. It's not hype. It's not just outside noise. He has been that good. So we'll certainly get into more specifics. We'll see him in a preseason game soon enough, and then get into more specifics as the preseason continues. Going to get to Ryan Glassbeagle here in a minute, but first we got a caller or two on hold. We'll just get to the phone lines. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hi, this is Peter from Boston.
Boston. What's up, Peter?
Yeah. Well, I remember you were talking about Matthew Golden, and I can remember way back when Sterling Sharp was picked as number 1 draft choice. I don't know if you remember that at all, but
I was a little bit before my time. What year would that have been? 80?
It would have been in the 80s, yeah.
Okay.
But he definitely changed the team when he came out, even when Don Majkowski was his quarterback. So I think Matthew Golden can definitely do it too.
You don't think the rest of the room will look at him like, what's this rookie? Like, you think a rookie can come in and do that because you've seen it before?
Absolutely. Why not? If Sterling Sharp can do it, so can he.
I like the proof of concept. I appreciate the call. And thank you for listening in Boston. I just don't want to expect too much, because I still think, and Mike Clemens has said this from the beginning of training camp, the crux of this thing and it being better this year than last year is Jordan Love, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft. That core. Can those guys execute in the biggest moments against the best teams at a higher level than last year? If yes, then this team's going to get better. If not, then I think Matthew Golden, he'll help, but I don't think it'll improve the structural core of the team, and that core needs to be improved. We saw that last year. All right, Ryan Glassbeagle, Front Office Sports, and you'll hear the introduction. This is an excerpt from today's Bill Michaels show. Enjoy. Our friend who joins the show, he's always willing to hop on, especially when I'm filling in for Bill, Ryan Glassbeagle, Front Office Sports. And Ryan, you've been busy. I listened to your Twitter space last night. This ESPN NFL, I don't even know what we should call it, merger. This is a big deal and is going to have some impact for the way that maybe the ESPN covers the NFL, maybe the way that we watch some of these things. So for someone who's completely and totally unplugged to this, I guess, development, what should they know?
Okay, so first of all, it's not going to happen for at least a year. This stuff still has to go through the, regulatory process. And there's some thought that President Trump is going to kind of command a pound of flesh from the NFL and Disney to allow this to go through.
Okay.
And so we got to see how that goes. But the gist of it is that ESPN is acquiring NFL Network, and they're acquiring the right to distribute Red Zone on TV, on linear TV. And in return, the NFL is taking a 10% stake in ESPN, which is worth about $2.5 to $3 billion.
So they if this goes through, obviously some ifs, like I could just turn on ESPN on my YouTube TV or on my DirecTV on Sundays, and Red Zone will just be there. It's not going to be on some pay-per-view. It's just going to be on linear TV.
Okay, so linear TV is like Comcast and satellite. They have the right to distribute it there. So for the boomers like me who still pay
and me
like for the bundle, but not from YouTube. YouTube TV is separate from this. YouTube TV is digital, not linear, and the NFL still owns the streaming rights. So like this idea that like ESPN is going to ruin Red Zone, I think is false. The NFL still is owning and producing this. But, you know, they started to put ads in Red Zone last year, Grant.
Just feeling it out.
It's going to be a creep. They are going to add more and more and more advertising. I think that that's just a sad fact of life that we have to start resigning ourselves to.
You guys did a Twitter space, you and some front office sports, your fellow journalists and reporters there, and you talked about how crazy of a development this is, because once upon a time ESPN was like on the outs with the NFL. They wanted to get more into, you know, soccer or whatever other properties. So kind of a crazy turn for those like you who have followed this closely for the last 7 or 8 years. This would have been hard to imagine not that long ago.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there was a story by Jim Miller, who wrote the book on ESPN, he was talking about how ESPN was plotting a plan to just, quote, abandon the NFL and take all the rights they were paying it and basically be like, okay, we have all the sports except the NFL. And so it looked like that looked like it could happen. And that was under a different regime led by John Skipper. But then when Jimmy Pitaro came over to replace him, he just did everything he could to rekindle the relationship with the league. They started Manning cast. They brought Chris Berman back into a little bit of a more prominent emeritus role. They brought in Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, America's Team trademark Grant Bill, from Fox. And they've gotten Peter Schrager. And, you know, they are probably covering the league a little bit less aggressively, too. You know, ESPN had a lot of journalism bones in the 1990s and the 2000s and whatnot. But that's not a priority for them anymore.
They have a little bit, like Van Nada's broken some things, and Kalen Kaler, and there's a name or two I'm sure that I'm missing.
Seth Wickersham is great.
Yes, Wickersham's another one. That's worth mentioning. What's funny is going back to the story that was broken by Pablo Torre and Florio about, look at what the union's doing and look at what the owners are doing. And I remember reading and consuming, like, this is a fascinating story. But Ryan, I don't think that many football fans care. Is the game going to be on my TV when it's supposed to be on? I don't know that many fans are worried about stuff like that, or like the objectivity of ESPN.
I think it's something that we in the media are much more obsessive about than the audience.
Yeah.
And we're like, can't you see that this is a story? But they don't. The public doesn't care about that. Like, the public is not on. They're not like taking up the labor fight in solidarity with NFL players who make like $1 million a year, all the way up to $60 million a year on a spectrum. Even the ones who have the short careers, think about like what they're earning in 2 or 3 years on an NFL paycheck compared to how long it takes anybody else to accumulate that type of income. And so there's not like the public is just not think like, oh, these NFL players, we need to have solidarity with them. So it just isn't something like the people don't care if like they're getting screwed by their own union.
No. Now, we might care if, you know, Red Zone all of a sudden is littered with ads or the games are disrupted. If take my Sundays away from me, now we're going to have a problem. You tell me that owners are, you know, little casual collusion here or there. The players' union is a mess. I just don't know that people really care about all that stuff, despite how badly Florio wants them to care, which is kind of a funny dynamic to watch.
I love Florio.
I do too.
But like he he's a living legend. But
Agreed.
The public doesn't care that much about this stuff sometimes.
Ryan Glass-Steagall, Front Office Sports. You tweeted about the SEC media rights, which is a big part of ESPN's live sports programming as well. 10-year deal worth $3 billion. So you broke it down like $300 million a year. Something that I'm really interested to watch, and we've already seen this a little bit with how they've deployed McAfee and how Fox is now going to deploy Portnoy. Big Ten, Fox, ESPN, SEC, and it's only going to continue that way, right, as these conferences consolidate and it becomes more of this like a Power 2 type sport. I'm fascinated to see how those two networks present the product and how competitive they actually get.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting just from like a TV nerd perspective. Is like Barstool is far and away the most influential brand with young, especially male sports fans. Even women too, though. But can they translate this audience to linear TV? And how much does it even matter if it boosts like this Nielsen TV rating? If you're getting, hundreds of thousands, millions of social views and YouTube views, and like, how do you weigh which one is like more important? But it's kind of the answer is they're getting all of it, and it's going to be kind of fascinating.
Were you surprised by the Portnoy addition? What did you make of that when it first happened? 2 or 3 weeks ago now, a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I mean, I actually had like conceived that it could make sense. So it wasn't something that when I first heard it popped up out of thin air. But no, it's stunning because like imagine it never would have happened even 2 years ago. But the vibes have shifted in our society that it's just like they are like, okay, we can do it. Let's do it. And let's try and get his audience. And so it's a crazy thing, but I wasn't like so surprised in the moment. Sorry to ramble.
No. That's why you're here. Do you think the success of places like Barstool, where the fandom is worn openly and honestly, do you think television networks are realizing we need some of that in our production to reach fans and to draw an audience the way that we used to? Is that something that's necessary for even the Foxes and ESPNs of the world these days?
It is, because for a while, they didn't have this wide range of competition. Like ESPN and Fox and NBC and CBS were the major leagues, and like newspapers and radio were their farm system. And so they weren't used to like having to really compete with upstart media stuff. And, the world has changed, as we've said. Like the people seek out content in so many different fragments and different social platforms and channels and YouTube and everything, podcasts. And like Barstool across all of those different distribution channels has just built a monster audience. Like everywhere, they're big. And so it's something that the TV networks just didn't develop on their own for the most part over the last decade or so.
So the farm system, I like that. I like that framing. Ryan Glass-Steagall, appreciate your time, but one more. You're down in Chicago. Are you hearing anything about the Cubs as you ride the train or as you stop in your local coffee shop or watering hole?
I'm actually not hearing grumblings person to person, unfortunately. They're much more vocal on Twitter than whining in the bars, calling Craig Counsell a bum. Like that doesn't happen as much. But oh my God, I'm so into these Brewers though. I'm going to drive to Peoria today to see Made and Pena. Is it Made or Made?
I think it's Made. I think it's Jesus Made. Although Jesus Made, it was just so.
Jesus, he's got to be Jesus Made, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It would be funny if it's one of those things like, who was it whose like name he said we were pronouncing wrong all along and he just never corrected anybody?
Oh, it drives me nuts when people do that. I hate when players do that. Yeah.
It would be funny if he's one of those like, no, I'm Jesus Made. But yeah, like they have an 8-year window with these young studs. Like it's not just like that they're so outperforming this year and how exciting that's been. It's like you look as far as the horizon can see of any organization, and they're just set up with like young, cost-controlled studs. And it's wild to like kind of feel like that.
Well, and Jed Hoyer, didn't he say something last week around the deadline? He basically said something like, look, it's our goal to be good every year, right? Kind of pushing back on the idea that they wanted, to go all in at the deadline. And I heard that and I'm like, I think that's kind of what the Brewers do. The Cubs could probably do it at a slightly higher level with more cash, but the Brewers have executed this model that they've talked about, trying to be good every year and, getting a bite at the apple. I know you're going to a game this weekend, so enjoy. Thank you for the time. Ryan Glasspiegel, appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Grant. Bye.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Well, look, I mean, the name of the game is to square the ball up and get on base and create rallies. And, you got to do it in all sorts of situations and all times of the year. And we're just in a little rut right now where we're not doing it. This is a very good offensive baseball team. It will happen. You never enjoy going through stretches like this. I think you can always, when you're slumping, you kind of feel like you're pressing because you're not getting any good results. We're just got some guys not in great places swinging the bat right now. We'll get them there.
Grant, come on. Why are you playing Craig Counsell audio? Good question. I don't know. I wanted to play it one more time. I stayed up late to watch more baseball last night. I watched the end of Cubs Reds, and then I turned on the Yankees game because, by God, you wouldn't believe it. Devin Williams was in the eighth. got himself in a jam, bases loaded, and who else is coming to the plate for the Rangers but Rowdy Tellez? I mean, that's cinema. And then I changed back to Marquee because I wanted to listen to Craig Counsell's postgame because I'm like, well, maybe there's a soundbite in there. I'm watching. I might as well work. Then I can mark it down on my time card. It's unbelievable. I work like 120 hours a week. Anytime I'm watching sports, I just write it down. I don't do that. I don't think that would fly. Why am I playing Craig Counsell sounds? I don't know. It's just, I kind of get a kick out of it. That's all. Sometimes it's just, it's fun to have fun with sound. I work in radio in 2025. That should be the only explanation I need. And well, Jesus, man. I just enjoy watching a good Counsell press conference without needing to actually interact with it anymore. Brewers Braves tonight. As far as I know, there won't be an issue with the weather down there. I haven't seen anything. I know there's been, it's been unseasonably cold down in Atlanta. Josh Maurer has told us multiple times about that. Lane Grundle, I've been listening to the radio broadcasts a lot the last couple nights. So I'm looking forward to watching that. I haven't seen any news about the game, so I assume no news is good news. Tomorrow, Jesse Temple is going to be here. Now, Badgers are in the thick of things down in Platteville, so we'll connect with him. I'll probably have him on Bill's show tomorrow, and then you'll hear that conversation replayed on the show tomorrow night. And he's normally on the show anyway, so it's not like anything will be different. But we'll talk some college football tomorrow. We should talk a little bit more college football on this show anyways. It's a sport that I don't often give its due, and I could probably do a little bit better job. So we can look forward to that tomorrow night and anything else that happens in the Brewer game this evening. Is it Woodruff tonight? I should know this. I've looked at the lineup card. Sal Frelick's back in, so assuming he doesn't hurt himself again, we should be okay. Bobby's World on the YouTube stream says, keep playing Counsell Bites. It reminds me what a turd he is. Well, all right. Well, I look up the Brewers lineup. I'll let it run.
Look, I mean, the name of the game is to
oh, yeah, it's Quintana tonight. That's right. Duh. So Frelick, Contreras, Collins, Yelich, Vaughn, Perkins, Terang, Siegler, Ortiz. And then Quintana on the bump, as they say. Thanks again to Dom Cotroneo. I think I might cut that interview and post the whole thing on YouTube for those who have missed it after the fact. Maybe post it on Twitter. The nice thing about being verified on Twitter, other than being able to be a massive douche, is that you can post full-length videos however long I want. So I think Dom was on for about, 10 minutes. I can post that whole thing later tonight for those who missed it, because that interview was outstanding. Some really good details on Freddie Peralta, what's going on with him, Andrew Vaughn, just the style that the Brewers are playing, right? One man to the next. I like that description, 9 versus 1, all 9 hitters versus 1 pitcher.
Well,
I really enjoy Dom anytime he comes on. I might need to ask him more often. I can't ask him like every week, but maybe a little bit more often than we do. So enjoy the Brewer game tonight. And I'm certainly looking forward to it. The Cubs lost, or the Cubs won today. They lost the series they won today. So if the Brewers win tonight, they'll be 4 up. If they lose, they'll be 3 up. And I don't know where that puts them among the rest of baseball. I'm a little bit tired. Like I'm not going to scoreboard watch every team. I will watch the Cubs just because they've been scuffling. And I keep up with our rivals. It's the same during football season. I watch all the Vikings and the Bears and the Lions game unless they're on at the same time as the Packers. It's kind of how I consume sports. I think it's a good way to do it. So we'll pick it up tomorrow, same time, same place. Looking forward to a little bit of college football talk and reaction to anything going on tonight. I have done 6 hours today, and I'm mostly out of things to say. If you haven't picked that up on the stream or listening at this point in the show, I just we can run that one more time. It's always worth a listen. Craig Counsell, I do appreciate his pressers, and they make me laugh. All right, now I'm out of things to say. We'll pick this up tomorrow at 4. Jesse Temple and whatever else comes.